And we're off.
Perfect.
Yes. I've been excited about this chat because the title, Zooming Out to Get the Whole Picture.
Mm.
I was thinking about last time when we were talking about the landscape, which I want you to
Mm-hmm.
get into, but I wanted to mention, have you ever seen Eastern art versus
Yes.
Western art, and how like the
Yes.
Eastern art encompasses everything as the portrait versus just the person?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Were you inspired by that style at all, or what's your?
Not directly. Like I haven't really studied that at all. But you mentioning that, um, I guess maybe subconsciously a little bit, but not directly. But I do love that correlation because I feel like just in our society anyway, that's kind of how it is. Like over, especially in America, we focus more on ourselves. And then in other places, especially the East, they focus more on, I feel like, community and everybody as a whole rather than on the individual as much. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. That's what I look like. That's what I think of when I look at the photos, a lot of the photos that
Hmm.
you take. Um, and like I was talking to you last time about,
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned which one, or maybe I did, that photo that you're like really far away. I think it's at a
Hmm.
retreat and people are underneath this little,
Yes. Like structure, canopy, gazebo type of thing.
yeah,
Yes. 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 That was at a retreat a couple of years ago. And is hosted at like kind of like a farm space, but that was like the only one little building and their structure in the whole field. And so the retreat host thought it was a nice place for everyone to commune for practice and stuff. And it had just enough space for all of that. But I thought it was a good place to, yeah, step back and get that in it with the landscape back behind it as well. Cause yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about, but yeah.
yeah. I really like, and then the one with the house with the girls that are running toward, I don't know if they're running or they're walking toward the door.
Yes, I think they're running, and I'm pretty sure it was raining, which is why they were running. It was starting to sprinkle. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I really like it is because from an observer, it feels like you're getting, you're able to observe a moment in time
Yeah.
from, yeah, it's like you're inviting me into that world and allowing me to experience it as an observer, versus I think
Hmm.
a lot of other photos focus on like, let's take a memory. Yeah, it's like there's so many different kinds of photos that you can take for different
Yeah.
reasons, right? It's
Hmm.
like you can
Yeah,
have photos that are a
absolutely.
memory, you can have photos that are for marketing, and then you have
Hmm.
these photos that I think I love it because it just draws
Thank you.
me in and it makes me feel like I'm getting to experience it through a photo.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I love to take photos in that style, more of like a documentary type of style, like capturing it rather than like creating the moment. And I just also think they're so special. And like you're saying, it brings the viewer into it. And then for the people that were in the photo too, whenever they see it, brings them back to that memory and them being in that space. And I feel like they can feel it a bit more.
Yeah. There's space for you to interact with it almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I yeah. Wow, I read your bio. I already thought you were amazing and your website is amazing. Did you you
Thank
updated it
you.
recently, right?
I need to update it.
Oh, it looked like
I
you made some
haven't.
changes.
Well, thank you. I haven't. Maybe you just discovered a new part of it. I need to update it. It's been a minute since I have. But yes, I hired someone to do it for me a couple of years ago, because that type of art is not my specialty, graphic design or website building or anything. Mine is definitely the photos. I remember like trying to like start it on my own. I was like, I can't do this. So,
Yeah.
yes, hired someone to do it and she did a great job. Yeah, I love it. And I went with someone who is a bit more unique and wanted to add some like of those like magical elements and just like not the typical that you see
Yeah.
on a photography website, but Thank you. Yeah, I love it.
It's really great. It's like
Thank
one of
you.
the best websites I've ever seen,
Thank you.
honestly.
I will
Yeah.
definitely tell her that.
Yes. But all of that to say that I was reading your about me just to like dive
Yeah.
deeper into you. And
Yeah.
then I read the part that you had brain surgery.
Did. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So in 2017, actually, the anniversary of it was like, what is it? 2 days ago. But yeah, so I had brain surgery, something called a Chiari malformation. If you don't know what that is, basically it's where your brain stem, like right here at the base of it, your um, brain kind of like juts out into your spinal cord. And so ideally you want like 100% spinal fluid, like moving through your body. And I only had 20%. And so that
Wow.
was like causing, yeah, like 24/7 pressure headaches. And I just thought that was my normal, until we figured out and had MRI, figured out that's what it was. And so they basically went in and like cut out the base of my skull so that my brain could like go back up and decompress. Um, but yeah, it's quite a thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like, your life before and then your life after experiencing that?
Yeah, I think so. Before, my degree is in elementary education, and I had actually just graduated college, like a couple months before that surgery. And so I was set to start looking for like teaching positions like in my town and, go on that track. And then had that and just kind of realized that that's not what I wanted to do, really. And that I should be living my life, really enjoying it and like following something that I was passionate about and really, really found joy in doing and wanted to do every day. And that wasn't sitting in a classroom all day. I have so much respect for teachers and I have a lot of friends that are teachers. Like they do great work, but that's just not what I really wanted to do. And I just wanted something more freeing than being tied, to a classroom. So then I moved to Alaska to be a nanny because I still love kids, working with kids. And so I lived with a family there and got my first like professional camera when I moved there and started doing like landscape photography there. And it kind of all just snowballed into my business today. But
Wow.
yeah.
So I mean, the brain surgery really was kind
hmm
of like this catalyst to like a
Yeah,
wake up.
for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I was just like, we have one life to live and you can either do it just to live, and just working to live, or you could um, do something that you really love and enjoy your work every day and um, not feel like you're just going through the motions of life until it's over.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I really think it was.
So
Yeah.
you're in Alaska, and what made you buy a
Mhm.
camera? Like how did you, that's so random. No?
I know. Yeah, a little bit. I've always done photography with like a little point and shoot, which have come back into style now. But growing up, I always had a little point and shoot, and my family, we've always gone on family vacations every year. And my mom always loved photography and like taking photos of us. And so that led me to whenever we would go on vacations, I would take photos so I've just kind of always dabbled or always had a camera. But then when I moved to Alaska, I was like, I'm going to this beautiful place. I need something a little bit better than just my phone, especially at the time. This was in 2017. So whatever the iPhone was back then, like not like how it is now. So I was like, I need a really good camera to capture this place that I'm going to be living in. So that led me to buy my first DSLR.
What was it, a
Yeah.
Canon?
It was, yes, yes. It was a 60. I actually just sold it like a couple months ago because I just held on to it forever. I was like, what if I ever need it? And I hadn't used it in probably like 4 years. Yes, I've always been a Canon girly just because that's what I started with. Yeah, that's what I use now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did it start becoming like, okay, I actually want to do this for a living?
Yeah. Whenever I moved back from Alaska. So I was there for a year. And then I had some of my mom's friends who had kids that were seniors that year in high school. And they had just seen my landscape photography and thought I had a good eye. and asked if I would want to try to do like their kids' senior photos. And so it kind of started out with that, doing those for like free or really cheap. And then that kind of spiraled into doing families for my mom's same friends. And then once that started gaining more traction, turned into like couples and engagements and weddings. So it just kind of all happened right after the other. But yeah. Yeah.
And then retreats.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I did weddings for, I almost dropped that, for 4 years, and loved it. But I didn't love it enough that I wanted to continue doing it, because wedding photography is a lot. It's a lot. I mean, all my weekends were taken up. It's so hard on your body. It's like 8 to 12 hours straight standing, running around, really hard on your body. Even if your couple is great, somebody else is causing some stress somewhere. So you just have like all that to think about. And then it's
like what kind of stress?
Yeah. I mean, if you have like, I don't know, just like some random person in the family or like the bridal party who think they know how to do your job better than you. And they're like, oh, why aren't you getting a picture of like this? Or like, they're doing this over here. Like, aren't you supposed to be taking pictures of this right now? And trying to like micromanage you. Yes. Yes. And I'm like, I know how to do my job. But thank you. So a lot of that. And then also with weddings too, there's a lot of waste that goes into weddings. And I try to, in my own life, like minimize that a lot. I'm a huge proponent for the planet. And so just to like see all of that behind the scenes, like how much food is wasted, how much stuff is thrown away, all these different resources that are just wasted into planning like a big wedding after the fact is just like, I didn't really want to be around it, So yeah, I just decided to try to find something else to do still in photography that wasn't weddings, because most photographers do weddings, not only if they love it, but you make great money doing wedding photography. And so I was kind of scared at first to step away from that, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make, good money doing this if I'm not doing weddings. And so it was in like the end or middle of like 2020. And I don't even know how I was connected with her, but I saw on Facebook, this woman her name is Gab. She was running a retreat. And I was like, this sounds interesting, like something I might want to get into. And I literally just like messaged her on Facebook. I was like, hey, I see that you do retreats. I don't know if you want a photographer or you're like looking for a photographer, already have somebody. But I would love to talk to you and see if I could maybe, if you already have a photographer, like shadow them or, do something so that I can, because I really want to get into this space. And it turns out she didn't have a photographer and she had actually just started doing retreats. So we kind of started at like the same time in that space. And then I did my first retreat with her, and it was in June of that year. It was so hot. It was like the most miserable. It was like over 100 that weekend.
And where was it?
It was in near here. So near Springfield, about like an hour away. And it was primitive camping. So it wasn't like all, inclusive retreat venue or something. We were in tents, and outside, and thankfully we were near a creek. So we spent like half the time in the creek, in our bathing suits, like the whole weekend. But I just really, even though it was so hot, like really fell in love with it. And I met so many people through there, and people that I was like, I want to work with these type of people. And then a lot of them own their own businesses as well. And so that's kind of what led me into branding photography, which is what I also specialize in. And I just made connections with them. And my first branding photography clients that I did were some of those people at that first retreat that I photographed too. Yes. Yeah. So it just that one retreat just kind of like changed my whole trajectory with photography. I still did weddings up until 23, but I slowly started adding in like doing more branding and doing more retreats and stuff until I was fully able to stop needing to do weddings. I'll still do them right now for like a close friend or something. But other than that, strictly just, yeah, branding and retreats and events and stuff. Yeah.
That's really cool. And it made
Thank
me
you.
think of, I mean, so what kind of retreat was the camping one? Was it yoga, wellness?
It was yoga. Yes. Yeah. Yes, it was yoga.
I was thinking a lot of people that go to wellness retreats
hmm
have their own businesses. Like maybe not everybody,
Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
lot of them might. And that's
Mhm.
uh, just a very clever way to move from retreats into meeting someone and helping them with their business. Or even there's a bunch of entrepreneurship retreats now where people need
Yeah.
photography for their products or their book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The retreat space, there's so many different niches within that, which I think is great. I definitely think all different types of businesses and brands need that community. I think it's really important, especially because a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, like myself, I'm basically just with myself all the time, unless I'm on a photo shoot or something.
Or on a podcast.
Or on a podcast. Yeah. Yeah. It's basically just me at home or like at a coffee shop, just working by myself. So I think it's that way for a lot of entrepreneurs, unless they're actually like have a client or, whatever. So I think those spaces are really important for all different types of brands and businesses.
Yeah, me too. What
Yeah.
kind of businesses have you worked with?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of estheticians, actually, um, massage therapists. I've worked with a lot of yoga instructors, um, a lot of estheticians. Like probably half my clientele is estheticians. But yeah, just a lot of people more in the holistic wellness space.
What are some of the things that you work on with them as far as like branding photography?
Yeah. So a lot of them come to me either it's like their first time needing a branding shoot, or we've worked together before and we're just like not rebranding themselves every time we work together, but just creating new content to keep them relevant in their space. And if it's like, a different season or something, it's just great to refresh your photos like every, couple seasons, because you change, your business changes. And so I just work with them on really showcasing that. And I really love to work with my clients on really the heart behind their business and making that come through in images and not having them be super like cookie cutter branding images that everybody else in their industry has, but creating a unique spin with it based on them in their particular business and not just what everybody else in their industry is doing.
Hmm. What do you mean when you say, or what does it mean for you when you say you transmit people into the
Mm-hmm.
emotions?
Yeah. So kind of how you said earlier, whenever I take my photos and I feel like my photography makes people feel like they're actually there. Because I do, like, for instance, with like an esthetician, if we're doing like a service shoot of their services that they offer, I do like a mix of like detail shots of like, really up close of like their hands and things. And then like zooming out and doing wider shots so you can see the whole space and the client and them. And I feel like through those varying perspectives through the images, like people really can feel themselves in the photos. Um, and it can bring out those different emotions, how they would feel if they were getting that done. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like you're capturing
Yeah.
the micro to the macro or the macro to the
Yes.
micro.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Thank you. I actually
Yeah.
had a client who is inquiring with me, reaching out to me, said that little quote that my work is like they're being transmitted into the emotions, like in my website inquiry form. And I was like, can I use that? And they were like, absolutely, because you do. I was like, thank you. You guys created a new slogan for me. But yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like watching a movie, which you don't
Yeah.
usually see in a photo, because
Yeah.
there's usually one subject or like one thing
hmm
that is the focus. But when you can
Yeah.
see everything, it does feel like your imagination starts to move the elements and you imagine
Yes.
yourself in the space.
Absolutely. I get a lot of inspiration from movies. I am a huge film buff and moviegoer, and I draw a lot of inspiration from that, and whether intentionally or subconsciously, I just feel like I am. And with photography too, something that I was taught by a mentor years ago when I first started was to, when you're photographing, pretend like you're actually videoing and making it so you can actually see like the emotions through it, and like it's a moving piece rather than
How do
just
you
like
do that?
still. Yeah. I just like follow, and I do a lot of observing. I feel like that helps. And just do a lot of observing and how people interact with each other, and just like creating stories like in my head too of like what they're doing or what's going to be done. And just always, especially the branding photography, I always have tell them to do movements and just like incorporate movement into it instead of like stiff posing, so that it's like they are being videoed instead of just photographing. So whenever they're moving through something, it doesn't seem as like stiff and rigid and seems more flowy.
Did you hear that?
I did.
Oh my
It
God.
sounded like a wave or like a door or something.
Yeah, it was the
Sliding
door.
door.
It was a very, very loud opening of a door.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
that is okay.
Um,
So it happens when we're in real time.
exactly. This is real motion, movement, real
Yes,
movement.
yes, yes.
So how does that, what's the difference, the big difference between like how you photograph branding versus retreats?
Mhm. So the big difference with retreats, I definitely take way more of a documentary style to it. Most of my retreats that I work with, it's strictly candid, and I'm just literally like a fly on the wall, observing and capturing as I'm going through, which I do think being a wedding photographer helps with that too. I'm thinking specifically of like receptions, because receptions at weddings, I'm not like stopping people, having them pose. I'm just literally capturing what they're doing. So I feel like I kind of take that same approach when doing retreats. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to move this over here. With doing retreats, and just letting whatever is happening happen, unless the retreat host specifically asks for like, like a mock class or something that they specifically want to use for more branding rather than for the clients, or photos of just them that they're wanting to use for more branding and marketing of themselves rather than capturing it for the client.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. I just had a question and it went away.
That is okay. Happens to me literally all the time. So I
Yeah.
have a laptop with the notes just in case.
I have notes too, but sometimes it comes to me in the moment and those are not
Yes.
written down.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to move on. It'll come back.
Yeah,
When we were
perfect.
talking last time, you
Mhm.
were telling me about how you photograph in a way that gives people FOMO. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little
yeah,
more about that?
yeah. So I want people to feel like they want to be there. And so I love to just capture the moments that show a lot of, especially at a treat, like genuine connection and the relationships that like people are building, and like the fun little side things that they're doing, not just the classes and like the more structured part of the retreat. And then like with zooming out and capturing like the whole landscape and everything too. I mean, especially in today's world where we're like on our phones and our computers and on technology all of the time, I feel like creating images that like capture a beautiful scenery, like people are immediately going to be like, "Oh, I want to be there. I wish I was there." And they're going to be more apt to book that retreat because they're like, this looks like exactly what I need and where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Oh, I love when I see photos like that. I love and I hate.
Yeah.
Well, mostly
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
not so much
Yeah.
hate.
Yes.
Because you can't go everywhere. You can't
Exactly.
do
You
all the
can't.
things. But
Yes.
gosh, Photos can be so powerful in just transporting you to a place and getting your fantasy juices going. Like, oh my
Yes.
God, I wish I was on that beach. Or, oh my God,
Yeah.
to sit in that chair or be in that bathtub, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. They see like photos of somebody like facing the ocean, like doing yoga on their mat or meditating or sitting in the sand reading a book or walking along the beach with some friends. And they're like, I need to do that. Like, I'm missing out because I'm not there.
Yeah.
And then they're going to book it.
I remember what it was now. I wrote it down. So I've heard a few different responses when I ask this question.
Yeah.
Do you incorporate yourself into the retreat or not? And most people say, actually, I think it's been half and half. But what's your
Hmm.
take? Do you like to incorporate yourself as an attendee or do you like to just be in the background or how do you do it?
Yes. So I do kind of a mix of both. I feel like if I was strictly totally hands off and there as like just, an employee or something of the retreat, I feel like being a little bit more in it and making connections with some of the attendees is what helps me to kind of gain their trust a bit more. And so whenever, like if they know me and know more about me, then I'm just there as a photographer. They're more apt to, whenever they're in a meditation or in a yoga flow or whatever they're doing, to let their guard down a bit more if they know that I'm photographing there. And if they know me and trust me, they're more likely to just let themselves still experience how they were going to. So I feel like sometimes if you know a camera's there, like you're going to tense up or like you're going to, if you feel like something is going to make you cry, if you know a camera's there that's might take a photo of you, you're not going to do it. Right. And so I feel like having a bit of a connection and building relationships with attendees helps them to be more comfortable around me when I am photographing them. But on the opposite too, I don't like to be fully in it because for me, if I like want to participate in like a yoga flow or something, but also capture it, I can't, it's hard to like ground down and like be in it and then have to stop and like get up and take photos and then try to get back in it. Like it just doesn't work. So I kind of do it both
Okay.
hands on and like hands off a bit. But yeah.
And do you think there are moments that shouldn't be photographed, or have you ever felt like I shouldn't be photographing this?
Yes, I definitely have. If something is super raw and emotional, people do like to see too those emotional photos and of people having an experience or a moment, crying, whatever it is. Um, and people like to look at themselves doing that too later on and know that they felt that way and had this moment. So usually in those situations, I kind of just feel it out in myself. If I feel like I should be photographing this or not. Sometimes I'll just take like one quick photo and then like set my camera down and just listen and let them have their space and then not bring the camera up until like it's moved on to somebody else, like if it's in a share circle or something, or if it's in like a meditation or something, like move on to somebody else. Um, but yeah, so I just kind of tap into myself and be like, is this really something that I need to be photographed? Um, or not? Yeah.
What's been one of your most memorable moments behind the camera that you're like, oh, this is why I do this?
Probably I photographed this retreat in Mexico a couple of years ago in Puerto Vallarta. And there was this moment where they were doing a sound bath on the beach, like at sunset. And I was photographing that. And I just, at one point, like put my camera down too and just like sat there listening to the sound bath and like the waves and everything. And I was just like, yeah, this is incredible. Like, this is that moment.
Because you were thinking of it from the perspective of this is my life. This is what I'm.
Yeah. 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 And just super grateful to be there and that I get to experience this and do this for a living and that I created this for myself and get to experience it for myself and like with these other people. Um, yeah.
What about people experiencing your photos, like when they get your work
Yeah.
back after the
hmm
retreat?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I mentioned earlier, my first retreat that I did with Gab, she's one of my good friends now, and I've photographed her retreats since then. And so I've definitely, because a lot of hers are local. And so there's a lot of the same attendees that come back to each of those retreats. So I have good connections and relationships with a lot of them. And so every time like I send out a gallery, I'll always have those people that I know, especially come back to me and be like, wow, thank you for showing me like this, like showing me this part of myself and the way that I was in this moment that I've just never seen in myself before. And like, I've had some people who they've like cried over it, like seeing them in that way. And they're like, I feel so beautiful in that moment. And you capturing that just means everything. And so when I get messages like that, or whenever people post them on social media and tag me in it and thanking me for it, it feels really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's really
Yeah.
nice, that feeling to
Yeah.
just have someone tell you that you captured them and saw them in a way that they haven't seen themselves, or maybe in a way that they
Yeah.
wanted to see themselves and just weren't
Yeah.
able to.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, yeah, very special.
Okay, so how you describe yourself as unconventional in the best way? What does that mean?
So I think more so now, a lot of branding photographers have stepped away from the more traditional ways as well. But when I first started, especially branding photography, a lot of people were doing like the same things. And just looking to Instagram and Pinterest and basically just recreating those exact images for their clients. And I try to stay away from that. I still use Instagram and Pinterest like for inspiration, but I also like to use other things, like I said, like movies or like the environment and talking to specifically my clients about their goals and how they see themselves, how they see their business, and incorporating that to make it to be able to create those more unique images to anybody else in their industry. Because we don't want everything to be the same. And yeah, we want it to be more unconventional for you and for to make you stand out in your market. So yeah.
That's great. I mean,
Thank
that's,
you.
yeah. The biggest thing that people look for is that differentiator. And I mean, photos, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but I think women more than men are really drawn to images. Like they're really influenced by what they see.
Absolutely.
And so that means that what differentiates you isn't just about your, I mean, it is the whole package, you know, like what you're offering, how you communicate it, but then also how you put it into this visual that when people see it, they're like, wow, that's different.
Right. Yes. You want it to be scroll stopping and not just the same thing that they've been seeing all day. Yeah.
I believe you when you say that because I've seen your photos and your website is like, it's like, wow, what is this? This is different. It's definitely that vibe.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot.
So what type of retreat hosts do you like collaborating with the most?
Definitely I love collaborating collaborating with yoga retreat hosts. I have, like I said, my very first one that I did was a yoga retreat, and I have my own practice with yoga, and I've just gained a lot through that. And so I love to collaborate with retreat hosts and to be able to capture those experiences and moments that I personally have experienced myself. And I feel like it connects me more to what I'm photographing. And I just, yeah, I love yoga retreats. They're so fun.
Do you practice
So
yoga
great. So
also?
many. I do. Yes, yes. I don't, I go to some, so in Springfield, we have quite a few studios, and I'll occasionally go to a class if I'm feeling like I really need that. But I also just love to do like YouTube videos. And then I also have, her name is Nikki Nee, but she is actually a retreat host. I photographed her retreat in Mexico. And she has her own platform where she uploads flows and meditations and content and stuff. And I'll do that a lot. Or sometimes I'll just get on my mat and just like do whatever comes to me as I'm doing it and what I feel like I need. But yeah, I try to do yoga every single morning. Sometimes I fall out of it. But I love to wake up and do that kind of like first thing. And it kind of wakes my body up and feel super stretched and like limber and like
Yes.
ready to go for the day and like more connected to myself. And yeah.
That's nice. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
night and day sometimes when you just stretch a little bit, and it can make a huge
Oh, yes.
difference.
Yes. And I notice, especially when it's been a few days that I haven't done my practice, my day just doesn't feel as good. I'm like, I don't feel as good.
I relate to that. And where have you traveled to?
For photography or just in general?
For photography, for retreats.
For retreats. So a lot of them have been local. But so in Arkansas as well, I consider Arkansas kind of local because it's like 2 to 3 hours from where I am. So a lot in Arkansas, been to Puerto Vallarta, like I mentioned, done some in Colorado and in California. I feel like I'm missing another place. Tennessee, in the Smoky Mountains. Yes. Um, but yeah, want to travel more. Would
Okay.
love to do like an international one for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, there's so many: New Zealand,
uh,
Sweden, France.
Greece, Italy,
Just yeah, let's just
Amalfi
make a long
Coast.
list. Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes,
It's
I've been
so
there a couple
beautiful.
times and it's so beautiful. I'm like, I would love to do a retreat here.
hmm And the pasta is
Yeah.
just different.
Oh,
Oh,
it's,
you know what? Maybe we can connect
mm,
you with Marta. Marta is a
yeah.
she's a retreat planner in Italy, in
Okay.
Tuscany,
Amazing.
actually. Yes, perfect match. I
Amazing.
see that happening. Marta,
Yes.
if you're watching,
Yes. Yes. Please.
we're doing that.
Please. Yeah. The food there is otherworldly. I like can't eat pizza here anymore. I still do, but I'm like, it's not the same.
It's really heavy. And over there, you can just
Yeah.
eat. It's like
For
an
every
endless
single
bowl.
meal and you're fine. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
I miss it.
So let's see. We haven't really talked about challenges. What are some
hmm
challenges that you face when shooting retreats?
Um, I would say a big challenge is definitely weather. Because you never know. It could look like it's supposed for the week of the retreat be super sunny and great, and then you could just have a random rainstorm. And then that poses obviously a challenge for everybody who is working on the retreat. But for photography specifically, obviously our equipment can't really get wet. So I do make sure to like bring a cover or something, just in case it would happen to rain. So my gear is covered. But then what comes with that type of weather too, obviously the lighting is going like it could be super dark and like dreary and not great. So you have to be able to know how to shoot from different angles to get the most out of the lighting you do have. Or if like a practice was supposed to be like out on the beach, but then it's like downpouring. So they really can't practice in the sand when it's wet like that, downpouring on you. So they have to move to like an indoor space that is a lot smaller. And so having to really lean into the space and like figure out where you can go and photograph from where you're not being super intrusive, and like walking on everybody and still trying to get, your good angles and stuff, that you're wanting to capture. And yeah, so I feel like weather is a big challenge for everybody in the space, and weather is just a big challenge for any part of photography, no matter what you do, because yeah, weather just changes on a whim. It can. Yeah, I guess another challenge could be if somebody doesn't want to be photographed. I always talk to my retreat hosts beforehand and see if they've had anyone specifically like reach out to them and be like, hey, I don't want to be photographed for like this, particular reason or something, and figuring out like with the retreat host how to make them the most comfortable. And not accidentally like getting them in a shot or something where they don't want to be in. And some I've had, that hasn't happened to me too often, but it has a couple times. And usually if I do accidentally like get them, the person who doesn't want to be photographed in a shot, the retreat host and I both know, and we just don't share that photo. But yeah, that can pose kind of a problem if you don't. Also, if you don't know, I've been to a retreat. I didn't photograph this one, but where somebody didn't want to be photographed, but like they didn't know. So it creates, an issue, and they are uncomfortable, and you don't want that when they're at the retreat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, other than the weather, it sounds like that's pretty solvable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I really haven't encountered too many other challenges that I can think of. Obviously, whenever you're traveling somewhere, you want to ensure that you're getting there with enough time in case your plane gets delayed or whatever. But I always make sure that I'm getting there early enough for before the attendees, like talking with the retreat host to ensure that I will be there without make sure there's no travel delays or anything like that. But yeah, I haven't really run into too many challenges, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that we didn't talk about related to photography, or just something that you want to share? There's a cute little bird outside my window. I'm getting distracted.
That's okay.
It's really
it.
yellow. It's super yellow.
That's
Anything
amazing.
else, Rhianon, that you want to share about your experience or photography?
I love it. I'm the same way. Anytime I see like a dog or a cat, I'm immediately like interest is over somewhere else.
Yes, the ADHD is kicking in.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like immediate.
trying to bring the focus back though. You're cute.
Yeah.
Really cute.
Yes,
I'm coming back.
You're really cute, but yes, you're good. I'm looking at my notes real quick to see if I had anything. Let's see. Oh, something that you had asked me in there was about retreat leaders seeking a photographer, and like what qualities they should look for, and how to go about picking a retreat photographer. And if you want me to just kind of touch on that, I was thinking that could be a good thing. But my advice for looking for a retreat photographer, I feel like first and foremost, something super important is if you vibe well personality wise with your photographer, because they're going to be somebody that is with you in like this close, intimate setting for like an entire week or 5 days or however long it is. So you want to ensure that, you get along and you have some qualities and things in common, so that you aren't just like in a week with somebody that you don't not necessarily not get along with, but don't vibe super well with. That's something that I was taught to by a mentor with wedding photography. Like you with couples, want to say yes to a couple that you vibe with, just because it makes the whole experience better for everybody. And then I made another note on that. I also think it's really important for your photographer to have kind of a relationship with whatever your retreat is. So if it's like a yoga retreat, wellness retreat, surf retreat, hiking retreat, whatever it is, they have their own kind of personal relationship with it, so that they are able to connect to the experience more, and it makes them really want to be there more and feel like it's not, just a job, like just to get, money and they're just there to shoot, but they actually have a connection themselves with it because it makes it like they want to capture the best of their ability whenever they actually really love the subject that they're photographing. I think that's really important. And then obviously, if you love their portfolio, that's really important too. You actually like the work that in the art that they produce. But yeah, just some little tidbits there.
Yeah, that was a really insightful one about the finding one, because I did speak about this with somebody else, and it wasn't this specific though. It was like, yeah, you need to find a photographer that works in retreats. Like you need to find a retreat photographer. But this is even more specific. Like find a photographer that resonates with the practices that are, or maybe has their own practice, because in that knowledge and personal experience of it, they're going to be able to offer that depth. They're going to know what to look for and why and what it means.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why your photos are so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly believe that. I truly do believe that. Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that's it for this episode. It's been really fun getting to know you a little more.
Fun.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, I had so much fun. This was such a great conversation. I just love talking to you. You're so great to talk to.
Thank you. Ditto.
Yes. All smiles over here.
Exactly. By the way, can you just back up a second?
Yes.
So I can take a shot of you. Okay,
yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
For the thumbnail.
Yes. Okay. Am I looking at you or like at my camera?
Oh, that doesn't matter. As long as you're in the frame.
As long as I'm in it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yay.
That's it. It's in there somewhere.
There we go.